Okay, so we're going to show somebody who's really had enough of this crap. Tim Black, who, by the way, I used to watch his show a little more frequently. I've fallen off because I don't know. He's kind of not been as interesting as he used to be, but this is quite a performance that he makes over here. And I might have to, because I couldn't find the exact spot where he really starts tearing a new asshole for Bernie. But this is, Tim Black was a massive figure in parts of the Bernie movement. Well, I mean, I don't know how you say that, but he is well known among many progressive activists as a real stalwart of the left. And I believe he was involved in Occupy Wall Street, although I could be wrong. But let's hear him dealing with this Russiagate nonsense.
Bernie night. And we will burn this shit down. Do you understand? We are going to pull off the mask tonight because we have to. I take no joy in it. But it ain't about joy. Some things you do them because they're the right thing to do. And just because others won't do it does not mean that gives you a pass. You have your own mirror you must look in. Bernie Sanders has betrayed this revolution. He's done it in other ways as well. Oh, when he was talking about Russia, I don't know, a year ago, I was like, oh, Bernie, oh, man, oh, Bernie, no. I lied to myself, too.
I always liked his facial and physical expressions, so it's been a while, so I'm really enjoying this, even though he isn't.
I know how some of you feel. You're like, oh, man, Bernie, he had no choice, Tim. They gonna kidnap him. They gonna take your grandbaby. Put your babies in protective custody and do what the hell you gotta do. All right, so this is Rand Paul responding to Bernie Sanders' betrayal of reality in real time. Here you go.
Trump Derangement Syndrome has officially come to the Senate. The hatred for the president is so intense that partisans would rather risk war than give diplomacy a chance. Does anybody remember that Ronald Reagan sat down with Gorbachev and we lessened the nuclear tensions? We need to still have those openings. Nobody is saying or excusing Russia's meddling in our elections. Absolutely. We should protect the integrity of our elections. But simply bringing the hatred of the president to the Senate floor in order to say, we're done with diplomacy, we're going to add more sanctions and more sanctions. You know what? I would rather that we still have open channels of discussion with the Russians. Kennedy, at the height of the Cold War, had a direct line to Khrushchev, and it may have prevented the end of the world. Should we be so crazy about partisanship that we now say, we don't want to talk to the Russians, we're not going to have relations with the Russians?
No, we should not. No, we should not. I feel the same way about North Korea. I feel the same way about Russia. And those of us who live, breathe, and enjoy living and breathing should like to continue this trajectory of talking. And by the way, when Obama was in office, I said the same thing. I was defending him when he said we should talk to our enemies. I thought that makes sense. That makes sense to me. So now suddenly it makes no sense to you. You don't think Russia or China or these other countries that Obama said we should talk to and create dialogue with, you don't think that they were trying to meddle in our affairs then? It's what they do. It's what we all do. There are no good guys and bad guys. And if there were, we'd be the bad guys. Do you understand? Like a parent that pulls out a big 2x4 and beats you with it. Because you forgot to take out the trash. We do it for a good reason. No, you're still an abusive parent and you should be locked up for it. You don't get to say, well, I'm trying to raise them the right way. Oh, man, you bleeding all over the floor. You can't do nothing right. You can't even bleed right. No, you don't get to do that. So yes, Rand Paul is correct. We should talk to our enemies. And who are these people? Who are these people who defended Obama saying it and now attack Trump for saying it? And that, folks, and I hate using the term. I hate it. But it is Trump Derangement Syndrome. Or maybe it's something worse called self-preservation, political expedience, and gamesmanship at the risk of life, happiness, and peace, or some variation of it, of all of us. Well, let's go ahead and listen to more Rand Paul as he becomes more and more a voice of reason, at least on this particular issue.
We should stand firm and say, stay the hell out of our elections, but we should not stick our head in the ground and say we're not going to talk to them. I would like to see the Russians leave Ukraine. I think we could do it through diplomacy. We're not going to have it if we don't talk to them. I would like to see the Russians help more with North Korea, with denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We're not going to have it if we just simply heap more sanctions on and say we're not going to talk to the Russians, and anybody that talks to the Russians has committed treason. For goodness sakes, we have the former head of the CIA, John Brennan, gallivanting across TV, now being paid for his opinion, to call the president treasonous. This has got to stop. This is crazy hatred of the president. This is crazy partisanship that is driving this. For goodness sakes, we don't excuse Russia's behavior in our election, but we don't have to have war. We can still have engagement. We have engaged Russia throughout 70 years while also acknowledging the imperfections of their system, the parts of their system that we vehemently disagree with, the lack of freedom, the lack of human rights, and yet we had open channels of negotiation, open channels of communication. So I could not object more strongly to this, Mr. President. I object.
Mr. President. Objection is heard. Mr. President. Senator from Vermont.
The senator from Kentucky just told us he wants dialogue with Russia. He wants diplomacy with Russia, that he thinks it's important that we communicate with Russia. I agree. Who disagrees with that? There is not one word in this resolution that suggests that the United States of America should not aggressively engage in diplomacy with Russia to ease the tensions that exist between the two countries. What the senator said is totally irrelevant to what is in this resolution. What this resolution says is we're going to tell Russia, stop interfering in our elections. What this resolution is about is to tell Russia to stop interfering with democratic countries all over the world in their elections. What this resolution is about is saying that we should implement the sanctions overwhelmingly voted by Congress. What this resolution is about is that we will not accept interference with the ongoing investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller, and that what this resolution says is the president must cooperate with the investigation of Mr. Mueller. That's what this resolution is about. It has nothing to do with ending diplomacy with Russia at all. So that is just inaccurate, and I would hope that if not today, in the very near future, Republicans will join Democrats and do the right thing in our effort to preserve American democracy.
And that sounds pretty good if you believed any of it. But you'd first have to suspend truth. You'd first have to be unconscious and hit your head on a bunch of branches. You got to fall down the tree of Trump derangement in order to accept it. Bernie basically is saying we want to further the Democrat.
Let me remind you guys, this is not a Trump supporter talking, and this is Tim Black is not at all a Trump supporter. He's a huge Bernie Sanders supporter. So this is clearly, we are talking about somebody who has had enough of the bullshit the Bernie Sanders bullshit. Now I understand his politics haven't changed because he still believes in his, the universal health care, a lot of policies that I disagree with. But this is something, if you joined the previous stream, Lennon McCarthy was there, and you had me, who I happen to be a Rand Paul supporter, and I had two Bernie Sanders supporters, Josephine and Jim from California. And we're not even talking, I mean, we're agreeing that there can be differences on policy, but it's time finally to tear the mask off, as Tim says, and say, we're not going to let you get away anymore with, oh, you're our guy, Bernie. If the situation were flipped, would I be able to continue to support Rand Paul if he was also buying into this Russiagate idiocy? Mr. Wazo says Tim Black is racist as hell. I mean, I don't really know because I don't watch his show that often. But I don't know. If you say so, I mean, send me something. The Malevolent Rider is also in it. Malevolent Rider. I have trouble saying it now.
Democratic Party's talking points. Because that's what it's all about. If Bernie cared about fairness in elections, he would start domestically in his own election. He would have fought back against about the stealing of his election and the millions and millions and millions of dollars that was given to him by hardworking people. Oh, I got a lot stored up for you, Bernie. I held my fire long enough on this. I mean, I spoke about it back in 2016 at some point. Every once in a while, I just couldn't take it no more. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mueller investigation, for all that it has given you, it has not given you the thing that they have sought, which is a means to impeach Donald Trump. Don't talk to us about tax evasion, which is basically what it is. Oh my God, rich people not paying taxes. Who knew? People taking money they didn't declare. Who knew? People misrepresenting that they are agents or working for a foreign country. Who knew? These are all regular things that many other business people could be probably charged with in a court of law in the United States who are involved in politics. We got Manafort, Papadopoulos, these other guys on shit they did before they even worked with Trump. So there is nothing there. But that's what this is all about for Bernie. But if we want to make this about elections, I would like for my people watching, I want you to know just how much election meddling there has been. And I want you to put it in perspective. Remember, they said, Rod Rosenstein's own words in both indictments, at the press briefing for both indictments, that Rod Rosenstein has submitted to us. Each time he said the meddling or the interference or whatever he called it, however he labeled it, did not impact or affect the election results in 2016. He said that. He said nothing they did affected the election results to their knowledge. But this, folks, places that we've intervened, meddled, the United States.
All right, I'm going to show this clip, which is kind of a shorter version, which was on Twitter. I wanted to find the place for it. But this kind of condenses it all. I don't think
support the truth. And the truth is,
I don't think that this is the part that was shown in the full clip, but I couldn't find it on YouTube. So here's the condensed clip on Twitter.
Support the truth. And the truth is, America has been meddling in elections. So has Russia. Both things can be true. But did Russia steal our election? Did they steal our democracy? Bernie's the one who gave me the saying, we don't have a democracy, we have an oligarchy. This guy sitting up here right now trying to pass legislation to punish Russia for stealing something we don't have, which is a democracy. And no one knows that more than Bernie Sanders. Notice, nothing in this tape will be him challenging the domestic stealing of our election. No mention of the DNC. No mention when he was even the candidate. And I don't want to make no more excuses for, well, he can't talk and his back's against the wall. And he ain't scared somebody gonna kill him. He's scared he gonna lose his job. We got whistleblowers that put their asses on the line every day, risking their lives. We got one now. His name's Julian Assange. He could be dying. In fact, he is dying. He is dying right now. Literally dying. And we're going to make excuses for Bernie Sanders, the guy who wouldn't stand up to the corruption in his own party that he ran under. And now we got to listen to him pontificate about Russia and what they did in the general. Meanwhile, he totally obfuscates what the DNC did in the primary. And we all know gerrymandering, dropping people from the voting rolls, cross-check. There are people who risk more than Bernie Sanders. Just because you want a champion, does that mean you get to have one? Maybe we got to be our own champion. Let's keep.
Yeah, Len McCarthy says Tim Black is on point here. It's sad that less progressives get it. Well, that's the thing, that I think it's more and more progressives are getting it. And again, like the walk away movement is going to be not only about people who and probably the majority of people who do this walk away thing are not going to vote for the Republicans. They might just say, well, we're not even going to go out and vote because we don't have anything that we can vote for. These are people that they may not actually have anything to vote for in the election because they see this bizarre metamorphosis in the Democratic Party from a party that believed in civil liberties during the Bush era. So some of the cases I think that they handled during the Bush era, the Democrats or promoted, I think were kind of stupid, but they still believed in civil liberties, and that's important. Well, they've abandoned it. They've completely abandoned the issue of civil liberties, freedom of speech, the issues of the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence. They've completely abandoned it. It has very little to do with economics. I think people can have different economic belief systems. Even, for example, I have a free market belief system. A lot of people still have a belief in some sort of socialism or social democracy. I'm not going to compromise on that personally, but people can have those different belief systems. But when people decide that the presumption of innocence is up for grabs, that civil liberties are up for grabs, that simple things like transparency of government and the ability to face your accusers, those things are up for grabs. Well, then I think that those are really the issues that threaten American democracy. Not so much a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. I'm not going to say that the meeting was 100% positive because we don't know, and it's legitimate to ask, well, what really did happen in that private conversation? It's legitimate to say, well, I want to know more details. I don't think that people are wrong for doing that, but they're not doing that. What they're really doing is they're blowing their entire stack, overreacting, behaving just like as if they're having some sort of childhood temper tantrum because they can't run through the sprinkler anymore because it's getting dark. That's the way the Democrats are behaving. Today, I believe Whoopi Goldberg spit on Janine Perot on The View. What the hell is going on? You're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to go to work and represent your company, and this is what you do. So thank you, Mr. Wazo, for tuning in. Len McCarthy, what are you saying? Tim is right about Russia, so is Jimmy Dore, but they both are nuts about other things like minimum wage, socialism, and universal health care. Yeah, but that's their belief system. I don't know what you. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to agree with them on that. I'm just saying that this quote, this type of statement from Tim Black is an indication of how, how much people have really lost their patience, not just with the Democratic Party, but specifically with people that they support within the party itself, like or within the progressive movement. Bernie Sanders, for example. That's about it. I hope you guys liked the video. Share it. Subscribe to the channel and comment below. And please have a good evening, and I'll see you guys probably sometime this weekend.